Again, how many of you really appreciated that live interview that we just did with Rob Toledo? Let me tell you, if you're thinking about all the different ways that you could grow your audience, that's definitely one that you want to pay attention to. Now, this is going to be really exciting because as a remote live video producer where I am creating content for clients on set, or whether I'm vlogging or live streaming from my phone, internet connectivity is one of those things that you always have to think about. I always thought about even as I travel around the world, I love to go to Japan and whatnot. I'm like, well, can I have the best internet? Because I love live streaming, right? And so this is for those of you that all want to have an amazing internet connection for streaming. Here's the thing. Friends, internet connectivity is an integral part of live streaming. After all, there's nothing worse than having your live video get choppy or just cutting out completely. This is why it's so important to know about Speedify. Speedify is the only app that can combine multiple internet sources into one bonded super connection, so you can enjoy a more stable and secure live streaming, video call, gaming, web browsing. I'm telling you, for those of you that even make pitches on the go, you meet an investor and you're like, you know what, I really want to have this phone call with you. It's going to be really important for you to make sure that you have a bonded super connection, and Speedify is the answer for that. The other thing that I want to let you know that is, yes, of course, obviously, Speedify is a sponsor of this year's Leap into Live Streaming Bootcamp. We're so excited to learn more about Speedify. And not only that, though, but we're going to have Speedify's CEO, Alex Gizis, join us today to dive more into that and to really answer your questions. So really, live streamers, event facilitators, virtual room facilitators, content creators, affiliate marketers, all the different things. This is going to be an important episode for you because you're going to learn what Speedify is, how it can help you create your content, live stream, improve your streams. You'll also understand how it all works. So this is for all my friends that are super geeky about tech and understanding what's really happening. How is this even possible? And what is the technology and innovation that really went behind all of this to create such a beautiful solution for us? And not only that, though, but you'll also learn about tips and tricks for ensuring the best internet connectivity, because it's more than just having, an Ethernet cable. All right. So friends, thank you so much for joining in. We've got Paul Duncan already back on the show. Thank you, friend. Appreciate you being here. You've been here nonstop. I absolutely appreciate it. Paul, let's make sure those people put those cues in front of those questions. Yeah. So everyone, we're talking about the key to a successful live stream. And having said that, let's go ahead and welcome Alex to the show. Alex, how are you?
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you here.
I'm good.
Yeah. You know what I love is that everyone is wearing black today. So everyone got the memo.
We've all got the logos.
Yeah, you got the logos with the black shirts. So I love that's happening right now. Shout out to Fulgens, who is joining again for our next episode. Thank you so much for your support. Love you. Love the family. Yeah, Fulgens. All right, Mr. Urban World already has a question for you. I'm going to put a star by that, right? But before we get into that, I want to know, tell us a little bit about Speedify. We just said that 10 years, you started the company, and tell us more about that.
So we started the company 10 years ago to create software to give people better internet connectivity. Mm-hmm. So the first product was Connectify Hotspot. It's still around. It's Windows software actually to turn a PC into a Wi-Fi router. And so it was a huge hit. But these days, we and most of our customers are kind of obsessed with Speedify. So this is the new application, and it's on iOS, it's on the Mac, it's also on Windows and Android and Linux. So pretty much wherever you are, you can get it. But for Ecamm users, it's there on your Mac, it's there on your iPhone. And that's what we're really excited about.
Love it. I love it. So Alex, first question for you is, how good of an internet connection do you need to have in order to live stream? I feel like this is one of the top questions we get all the time. And so how do you usually walk your clients through this and explain that to them?
So it depends on first of all, on the resolution you're going for and the frame rate. So at the bottom, if you only want standard definition 480p, 2 megabits is enough.
That's true. Yeah.
If you're looking for 4K, 60 frames per second, we're talking 50 megabits to do a good job.
Got it.
So that's a huge range, right? And it depends on all sorts of other things. How good the compression is and whatever app you're using, and how much motion there actually is in the video. But that's about right. If you have less than 2 megabits, I probably wouldn't try live streaming at all. And if you're trying to do 4K, you really need 50 or more megabits to do a great job.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, my goodness, I think my husband and I are celebrating our 7-year wedding anniversary this month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but for our 5-year wedding anniversary, he's like, what is it? What do you want? And I was like, I want fiber internet. I was like, for all the things that I'm doing,
nothing says I love you like fiber.
I know, nothing says I love you like let's always stay connected. Maybe that could be like the next Speedify, ad campaign that launches. Notes. There you go. Nothing says you're connected like Speedify. I honestly, I definitely think that could work. And P.S., by the way, shout out to Mr. Urban World, who's saying Speedify seems like a good alternative for people living in rural areas who can combine slower speeds with cell phone data. So then, having said that, that's a good tee-up. Thank you so much. So Alex, then, what does Speedify do exactly to help us content creators and live streamers?
Right. So under the covers, it's basically a VPN, a virtual private network. So what happens is when it connects and runs in the background, it captures all the traffic you're sending to the internet. And then it actually makes connections on your Wi-Fi, on your cellular, any other internet connections you have. On a Mac, you might have a USB hub with 4 Ethernets hanging off it. And it'll connect on all of those back to one of our servers. Wow. And that lets us packet by packet decide which internet connection should this data go on. And there's lots and lots of smarts and statistics and timing that goes into this, but you don't have to worry about any of it. It'll decide, if you need more speed to send, one packet on one internet connection, the next packet on the other one, so they go in parallel.
Yeah.
But if it sees that there's a lot of loss, it'll instead say, these internet connections are really unreliable, and this is a live stream. Mm-hmm. I'll send each packet on both connections and only deliver whichever one gets through first on the other end. So you clean up all the jitter and you replace all lost packets automatically just by sending it that way. So there's a lot of smarts, and it keeps getting smarter on the games it plays, deciding exactly how to route everything.
And so then is this something that I would only use when I'm on site, like somewhere else, or is this something that I could just use at home?
You can use it at home. So the people who have fiber straight into their computer, mm-hmm. all they're getting out of us is failover, right? You can tether a cell phone or something, and if somebody cuts the fiber, you will instantly change to the cell phone and keep using it. But the people who get a lot of value out of it are a couple groups. One, the people who live in the rural areas where they're using DSL, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, DSL, the upload is just not that hot. Or if they're using, SpaceX, the Starlink, it's when it works, it's fantastic. It's 100 megabits. But if you start graphing the bandwidth, it just goes up and down over the day as satellites come and go. So being able to switch over and use some LTE helps.
That's true.
And then the other group is the IRL streamers. The instant you stand up from your desk and disconnect from the wall, now you're on wireless.
Yeah.
Now, no matter how fast your internet is, you are going to hit dead spots, right? You reach the edge of range of Wi-Fi, it gets slower and slower and slower.
Gosh.
Right? And there are those terrible dead spots where you're at 1 bar of Wi-Fi and it's worse than nothing, and your phone won't switch to cellular because you're on Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi isn't fast enough to stream. So anyone who's ever tried to walk around live stream should know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Also, you hit it a lot just a lot of people, it's a driveway problem. They get in their car and then Google Maps doesn't work because once they close the car door, they're down to one bar on their house Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
and it's not enough for it to work, but the phone won't switch. They end up like starting the car and pulling out into the road and
Yeah.
then playing with Google
It's
Maps,
like,
right?
okay,
It's
where am
totally
I
unsafe.
going right now? Yeah, no.
Yeah,
It's funny, and this is a shout out to everyone that actually remembers this sound. Everyone else remember what this was like?
modems, modems.
So Speedify is definitely here to help you with all of that. So Alex, we have a question from Be More Super. It's just a quick clarification. When you were talking about 2 megabits per upload, well, I just said it, but it's upload, right? It's not necessarily download.
So when you're live streaming, upload is generally the important thing. Although, like right now, you're doing a weird thing where you're uploading, but you're also downloading me, right?
Yep.
So there's a little bit of both ways, right? I think you're mostly uploading,
Yeah.
but there's a little bit of both ways. But you know, for
There's no
browsing
doubt.
the web, downloads are more important. For live streaming, uploads are the important thing.
Yeah.
And something to watch for, because when they advertise internet speeds, the big number is always the download, right?
Yeah.
The cable company says 100 megabit, and then you read down the fine print and it says 5 up. Ugh.
Yeah. And then you're like, wait a second.
So it's that
That's too.
5 up you got to watch for.
And here's the thing too is that even when like an eCam you're allowed to have 5 guests on the show, and so if you're downloading and you're having all these different guests on your show, be mindful of that, and you're also thinking about your guest. Does your guest have the best internet upload speed as well for them to do all the different things? And so lots of things to think about. Here's another question that we have from the audience, and the question is, when combining speeds, Alex, do we get a new static IP address?
So what happens is everything on the internet that you're talking to sees the IP address of whichever Speedify server you're connected to. So a lot of times you'll connect. We have servers in 90 locations, 100 locations. So you'll generally connect to a server who's pretty near you. But if you go to like what's my IP and check your location, we'll often have moved you 2 cities away to wherever we have the closest servers. What you actually see when you look locally is a local IP address like 10.202.0.1, like you're on a LAN
Yeah,
going through a router.
got it. I'm looking at the comments because we've everyone loved this. They're like, oh, that's the good old days. Paul
Good old
Duncan.
days.
Oh my God, years of that noise in my yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love that. So everyone's like reminiscing now. They're like they just went back in time. They're like, what was my AOL name? Oh, who haven't I like?
So a question I get a lot from
Yeah,
people who remember modems is,
yeah,
didn't we have this in the early 90s?
yeah.
And in the early 90s, there were products that could bond a bunch of modems together the way Speedify does.
Mm,
But they stopped working because it was all the modems were almost exactly the same speed.
yeah,
So combining them wasn't that hard. You could
yeah.
just send a packet on the first one, send a packet on the second one, send a packet on the third one. Uh, and
That's
just round robin, it would add up.
yeah. No, no, no.
But now it got harder because Wi-Fi and cellular, they're just totally different speeds, and if you do that, you'll end up slowing yourself down instead of speeding yourself up.
Got
So
it. Here's a question. It looks like Jeff Johnston. It's a service-oriented question, but he was asking about the live stream web widget on the Speedify website. Is that a WordPress plugin, or would you know that? Or maybe someone else on your team?
yes, I don't know the details, but yes, our website is WordPress, and everything on it is plugins, and
Got
that's
it.
about as far as I can go on that topic.
Hey, we're all doing the best that we can with the resources that we have. I mean, friends, we're talking to
Right.
to Alex, the CEO of Speedify. There's big decisions he has to make. He's not worried about plugins. So having said that, here's another good question for you is what else can people do to ensure their streams don't get cut off? Because let's be honest, as content creators, we put a lot of time of effort in the production of our shows, right? We do, I mean, my goodness, here, Bradley Vincent did the whole entire overlays. We did the promo graphics, the social media copy, all these different things. And if a stream were to cut out on us, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, you know? So what are your top level tips for us to keep in mind?
Test, 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 right? So we've built into Speedify now a test to run before you start live streaming that tests your upload and tells you sort of what resolution you expect to get. And you probably want to dial that into Ecamm. If it
Mm-hmm.
says you can only get 720p, you probably want to set it to 720p
Yeah.
instead of letting it, try to use some higher resolution. That's not going to work. Two, we keep a bunch of test accounts, right? If we change anything on one of our live streams before we go live, we have these fake Twitch and Facebook accounts we stream to, and we'll stream for a few minutes and actually try it. And if we're going to walk around during a stream, we quickly walk around that place and make sure it actually works in all the spots we're going to go. And if it doesn't, we decide what to do with it. And then
Yeah.
we switch to our real account and go live.
Yeah.
If we're doing fancy things, we do that. And I really suggest it, right?
So talk to me a little bit about this, because I remember the last time that I was at VidCon, right? And there's a lot of content creators there, and we're talking about like content creators that were like kids, teenagers, adults, and big brands, and some of them would have like those backpacks, right? And so when you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about Speedify, is this something like, is this an app on your phone, an app on your computer? Like, lay out the picture for them so they could actually visualize what this means.
Right.
And
So
yeah.
it's software. So generally, if you're live streaming, you run the app on your phone, and it uses your cellular and your Wi-Fi. And your Wi-Fi, maybe you have a Wi-Fi hotspot you can join. Maybe you join the hotspot on someone else's phone. So now your phone's actually using two cellular connections,
Smart.
and it just runs in the background, right? You can run it on your Mac, where you actually have Ecamm running, and whatever internet connections you can get to the Mac. And we've done fun things where we've, with a USB hub, connected a Mac to 12 different internet connections
Got
and
it.
had Speedify bond across them, right? You have multiple tethered cell phones, you plug in Ethernets and all these things to get on all these different networks, and that works. We also support Linux.
Mm.
So a lot of the backpack people have put it on a Raspberry Pi, which is, they advertise as the $35 computer, but that doesn't include, the case or anything like that. But still, below $100, you can get this little computer running Speedify and stick it in your backpack.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We put out some designs for that, and I know some people are actually using it.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah. So we'll never do hardware ourselves. I know people ask us for it all the time. We will not do it. One of our co-founders before this was at another company, and she manufactured 50,000 radios for the U.S. military.
Oh,
And when we
wow.
asked her to join us starting this company, she said, I'll join this company as long as you promise me we'll never make any hardware. And so we agreed to that. And now, even though these people are calling us all the time saying we want to buy your hardware, the
Yeah.
answer is no. So we may partner with some hardware company at some point to give them software and let them sell a Speedify box. But
Oh,
you'll never buy a box from us. It's kind of a constitutional issue here.
all right, all right, all right. So those are, he said it, they're not going to be making any hardware. So for those of you that are interested, it sounds like there might be an opportunity.
There is an opportunity. If
Good,
any of
good.
you are like running a router company, you could have a bonding router. Call me.
That's true. So for those of you that are just tuning in, guess what? We're talking about Leap into Live Streaming Bootcamp, and it kicks off next week, September 13th through the 16th. We have an amazing lineup to help you with everything as far as live streaming production, video production, all the things, right, to level up your next live stream and all the things that you want to do. If you haven't already gotten your ticket, there is a free ticket, right? There is a free ticket. However, you could use the code LCLFAM and that will take a discount off the ticket for you. And let me tell you, the reason why you want to do that is because you'll have exclusive access to over $13,000 worth of giveaways that we have from all of our amazing sponsors, especially even Speedify. Not only that though, you get all access to all of the sessions, plus, the recordings, you get the guidebook. And not only that though, but I mean, you get exclusive access to Ecamm specific promotions around Speedify, TubeBuddy, Descript, and all the different things. And so this is going to be an important time for you to take advantage of that. So if you haven't done so already, Leap Into Live Streaming Bootcamp. If you want to go to the website, it's leapintolive.com, leapintolive.com. Use the code LCLFAM and we'll get you all squared and taken care of. And having said that, Mr. Urban World said Raspberry Pis are cool little devices.
They are.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, for what okay, because we've already talked about modems and all those different things, I'm gonna say that I've actually seen like little fanny packs like come back in style. I mean, that the 90s are coming back, right? So that little thing could fit in a nice little fanny pack. And I imagine just,
Yeah.
all the travel vloggers, content creators are on the go, conferences. Oh man, goodness, I miss, I miss collaborating with other content creators, like sitting across from me. Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So friends, if you have any other questions about Speedify, like now is the time to go ahead and drop them in the comments, because I've been looking at this at Speedify. I'm like looking at it on my other monitor. I'm like, this makes sense. As a remote live video producer, I'm in charge of producing the show for clients, right? Getting the overlays, the bumpers, and all the different things. I also assist them, Alex, as far as like the social media copy, and we'll have tech rehearsal. And there are times where you're like, okay, is this the spot that you're going to have the actual show? Or all of a sudden, are you going to start walking around the conference floor, right?
Yeah.
And so
It's really good if you can know that ahead of time.
yeah. And I think for those of you that are remote live video producers, this is something that you could add on to your services, to your SLAs, your service level agreements, and in teaching your clients on why this is absolutely important. I know your team is super helpful, because I remember talking to Bana and she explained it to me in a way that absolutely made sense. I'm one of those people who's like, explain it to me like I'm 5. Right. And she's like, this is how it works. And I was like, thank you. Totally needed that. And I think when you have a tech rehearsal like that and you give your client the confidence that their stream isn't going to be interrupted because you know all the ins and outs of connectivity, right? And you have a team like Speedify that's going to back you up. I always tell people, Alex, there's resources and relationships, so start building them now. And makes a ton of sense. I mean, how do you feel about, like remote live video production? Do you get are a lot of your clients doing that too? Or are these just clients calling you and like, hey, all the kids are at home, they're all online. What do I do?
No. Increasingly, we have pros. We have pros live streaming, and often they call us when they know they're going to have a problem, right?
Yeah, plan ahead, right?
I have to film from this 300-year-old church. The Wi-Fi isn't going to work. Or walking around the conference room, the conference halls. I mean, this hasn't been a problem for the last 2 years, but at the big shows, it's crazy.
CES?
In fact, it gets to borderline. Yeah, CES, right?
CES. I'm in San Diego, so like Comic-Con, like all, the conventions that would happen.
You get a Wi-Fi hotspot in every booth, in a booth every 10 feet. And it becomes almost impossible.
I remember even at Comic-Con, we would have Legend Studios and Marvel, they would all have like these giveaways, and they're like, just scan our QR code. And it's like, but the internet's not working, And so if you're like that one booth that has like the lounge area and you have real connectivity there, then it definitely makes you stand out from the sea of sameness. So, I mean, we've talked about content creators, live streamers, remote live video producers. I'm even going to call out event coordinators and planners, and just this is something that you need to have in your wheelhouse and really, really start thinking about it. So, Alex, we have a couple of other questions that came through. Don't you just
All
love
right.
it when people follow
I do love it.
instructions?
I do love it.
All right. So, you've
I
already
love the
answered
feeling that
this.
someone's listening and
I
I'm not just talking
know.
into the void.
I know, right? It's like, hello. So, this Facebook user is asking, would it help with preventing pixelated video when streaming? Which you've already covered, but let's go ahead and let
Yeah.
them know again.
So it actually does a couple things. One, I mean, the number one source of pixelated video is just your internet's not fast enough. And so we'll try to use other internet connections if you have them, right? So if you're on Wi-Fi and it's not fast enough because you're at the edge of range, we'll notice that and kick in and start using your cellular if you have it.
Got it.
So a lot of times it's the edge of range of Wi-Fi where the speeds are dropping off, but the phone tries to keep using it. That's where you get the truly terrible video, and we'll just fix that because we can use the Wi-Fi and the cellular at the same time if you have Speedify installed.
That's brilliant.
Even actually, if you only have one internet connection, if you're at the edge of range, we'll detect a lot of the problems
Oh,
and start doing things like sending the packets again because we think they might have been lost. So a lot of times we can, it's not quite a miracle, but there's a lot of cases where you're at the edge of range on a wireless network, and we can fix up a lot of the problems even without a second connection. But the real magic happens when you have more than one internet connection, and we can put them together.
very cool. Yeah, I remember when I was on site for a client and I was testing out one of those backpack devices and it wasn't working the way that I needed it to work with. And it was an important event because it was actually one of our community leaders, right? Someone from City Hall came down and I was like, I need to be connected right now. And, the customer service was press this number and it didn't happen whatsoever. So what's the customer service like at Speedify? Is like, do I talk to a person? Do I talk to a bot? Like, do I send in a ticket? How does that work out?
We have email and chat support. It's really business hours, but
Yeah.
I'm told we're fantastic. Right? Like we get
I'll
so many
take
emails.
that,
Be like,
right?
by the way, your customer support is amazing, right? So we have real engineers and stuff. We've got a dedicated staff of I think we're 4 or 5 people now.
Real problem solvers. Yeah,
Supporting customers, fixing problems,
that's great.
and good.
Good. Here's the other question, and I think you touched on this earlier. Does Speedify work with Starlink satellite internet?
Yes, the when we first heard about Starlink, we were like, we should go see if it works with this.
Yeah.
And so we went to the Starlink Reddit forum, and it's just full of people talking about Speedify.
Yeah.
They were just using it. We didn't have to do anything. It just worked. Because
Yeah.
the Starlink is the one I was talking about, where the speeds go up and down over the course of the day. And when they're up, they're 100 megabits and everything's perfect. And you're like, my gosh, Elon Musk is a genius. And then they come down and down and down. For some people, it gets down to 1 or 2 megabits. And for some people, it actually stops working for 15 minutes every 4 hours.
Oh,
Right? As satellites come and go overhead, the internet comes and goes. So for a lot of these people, just having a tethered cell phone
yeah.
and the kind of using Speedify, that if the internet gets slower than about 10 megabits, be on the cell phone till Starlink gets better again.
First of all,
They really
the
love
fact
it.
that you're hanging out in the Reddit forums and listening to what users are saying, I mean, hello, that's brilliant from a marketing perspective to understand how your end user is using it, what potential problems, and how to introduce yourself into the community in and of itself. So, very smart, very, very, very smart. Having said that, here's another question about Raspberry Pi and Speedify. This has to deal with hardware, and I know that that's not like your wheelhouse, or you made that commitment. But the question he's asking is how many USB
Yeah.
dongles can work on the Raspberry Pi with Speedify? Do you know that?
Yeah, sure. So built in, it has 2 USB 3.0 ports. So these are the really fast ones that can go a gigabit. And it has 2 USB 2 ports that can only do 200 or 300 megabits each.
Yeah.
If you need more ports, you can hang a hub off one of the blue ports,
Yeah.
right? Put a USB hub and get room to put more adapters. But now you have, this box connect to another box, connect to your dongle, but it works. So depending on what you're doing.
Okay, here's the
So
thing.
4 out of the box.
Ecamm fam, I know you guys are brilliant. I have seen you. I have personally seen you as far as taking Ecamm and blowing boundaries and doing amazing things. So if any of you come out with hardware for Speedify and you share the instructions in the group and all the different things, that would be brilliant. That would be amazing. I challenge you. Should you choose to accept this mission, will you do it? Because there are all these amazing things that we want to do. All right, so Alex, here's a good question from our good friend Joel, and I'll read this off to you at the same time. Joel's asking, if you're working at the edge of the Wi-Fi range, will the auto switching be fast enough to prevent stream glitches, assuming that the cellular connections is reasonably solid?
Yes. We realize that streams are important, and we detect them, and we'll jump to cellular maybe a little sooner than we might need to protect them, to make sure we protect them because they're that important. So
That sounds amazing. Like, we will protect streamers. I feel like now we need badges. Like, we will protect. It's like this force field of like connectivity. Like, wherever I go, I can always.
So like there are moments, and it's totally hidden from you as a user, where we first say maybe we should be using cellular, and so we'll turn on the cellular and tell it to connect to the tower if it's not already, and we'll send a little bit of the data on the Wi-Fi and the cellular at the same time, just to see, is the cellular actually working much better than the Wi-Fi, and would it help us? And so we pick up a few stats like that, just a couple packets, and then we'll decide, right? And it doesn't have to be a cutoff, right? We can send half the data on the Wi-Fi and half on the cellular. And if the Wi-Fi gets better, then we go to 3/4 on the Wi-Fi and 1/4 on the cellular. But if it gets worse, it shifts itself around like that all the time.
Yeah.
So
Love it. Cool. Okay, so our most important question of the day, Alex. I'm telling you, the most important question of the day. It's coming from our good friend of Mr. Urban World, and the question is, how can I convince Santa to bring me a Speedify shirt for Christmas? We all want to know. How do we do that?
That's a good question. All right, I'm going to have to start doing some giveaways. I will make that happen, Mr. Urban World.
Yeah. Good. Well, you're going to have a booth at Leap Into Live anyway.
Yep.
So that's going to be an opportunity for those of you that have questions about Speedify, and, whether it's for you as a content creator, as a live streamer, or it's for your business, for your clients, for your remote live video productions, it all works out. He's like, come on, man, I really want this shirt. Love it. So everyone, again, as I said before, Leap Into Live kicks off next week, September 13th through the 16th. You do get a free access to it, but I'm telling you, all the goodies are in the all access pass. So use the promo code LCLFAM, and I'll make sure that you go ahead and get all the amazing and the wonderful things. And I think even for us, what we have for all access for you, especially with Speedify, is you get 30% off all access. I mean, how much is Speedify? Let's talk about that. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, it's $15 a month, or was it $90 a year, right? It's a huge discount for going yearly.
Yeah. And so when you do that, if I do annual, because I know that I'm going to have, I'm producing live stream shopping events for clients. I know that I'm going to conferences and all the different things. Is it only just me? Other people on my team can use it? I could have clients borrow it? How does that work?
So that's for one person, although they can have multiple devices. That covers your laptop, your cell phone, all that. We've got like a family option, a Teams option, where you can purchase multiple users.
Yeah.
And manage them all easily. So
you're saying if somebody forgets to take out the trash, I can turn that off?
That's right. That's right.
And it's I don't know what happened. What'd you do? All All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, I can't wait to see all of you at Leap Into Live. Alex, you were absolutely amazing. Thank you for answering all of our
Oh, thank you.
questions.
I'm really excited both to be here and to be there next week for the boot camp, and see
That's
you all
it.
then.
All right. Thanks, friends. Take care, and we'll see you all next week. Let's do this. All right. Leap Into Live. Bye, everyone.